Good morning, students. In the last class, we discussed the various ways in creating the money, like the loans and advancement and discounting of the bills, the investment decisions, and like that, what is there else? The investment decisions and creation of the money by purchasing the fixed asset like that. That we see in the yesterday's class. So today we are going to discuss the more things with regard to the commercial bank at all. So we will check it. What is that? So we see in the last class that is the credit creation. So there are some limitations with regard to credit creation. What is that? We are going to see that one. So what are the limitations with regard to a credit creation? So the amount of deposits, that is the first thing. So how this is to be a limitation or the demerit with regard to a credit creation, how this is to be. So we will check into it. Amount of deposits. The power to create the credit that depends on the cash deposit that is to be received by each and every bank. ഓരോ ബാങ്കിനും കിട്ടുന്ന ക്യാഷ് ഡെപ്പോസിറ്റിന്റെ തോത് അതിനെ ബേസ് ചെയ്താണ് the credit creation is to be there. So, based on the deposits made by each and every or made by the general public to each and every bank, the credit creation is there. If the depositors have no faith in the banking system or are reluctant to deposit the money with the banks will have less cash with them, and thus their power to create credit will be curtailed, means reduced. So, therefore, depositing from the public or the amount of deposit or the rate with regard to each and every deposit that is to be made by the public towards each and every bank, based on that, the credit is to be created. That is the first demerit with regard to based on the amount of deposits. So the power to create the credit depends on the cash deposit received by each and every banks. If the depositors have no faith in the banking system, means there is no faith in this, over deposit only for a short period, after that they are withdrawing that one. So that is the case. So if the depositors have no faith in the banking system or are reluctant to deposit the money, means they are not at all in a position to deposit such money with the bank will have less cash with them. So they are not having a situation where enough money is to be lent. Our position alla, because there is shortage of deposit. So less cash with them, and thus their power to create the credit creation will be reduced because enough deposits are not there. So first point is what? Amount of deposits. Second is cash reserve ratio. So what is this? So all the banks are required by law to keep a certain percentage of deposits in cash as a reserve with the central bank. If the central bank asks, that thing need to be given to them. So each and every bank need to create a certain or kept as a reserve a certain percentage of the deposit as cash. Cash ആയിട്ട് ഡെപ്പോസിറ്റിന്റെ ഒരു കുറച്ച് ഭാഗം എങ്കിലും വെച്ചിരിക്കണം as per the instructions given by the central bank. Higher the ratio of cash reserve, lower will be the amount of the credit creation, and vice versa. So how it is related? Higher the version or higher the ratio of the cash reserve. Cash reserve rate കൂടുന്നതിനനുസരിച്ച് lower will be the amount of such a credit creation. Lower will be the amount. So that is the second point, cash reserve ratio. First is amount of deposits. Second is cash reserve ratio. Then third is security for loans. ലോണിന് ഈട് വെക്കുന്നു അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മോർഗേജ് സെക്യൂരിറ്റി സുരക്ഷിതത്വത്തിന് വേണ്ടി they are giving a mortgage facility. That is the case. So security for loans. The banks grant the loans on the basis of certain security. Hypothecated to this bank, like that. In some business, private business, this is mentioned there, isn't it? Hypothecated to HDFC or ICICI, like that. So what is that? It means അതായത് പണയം ആ ബാങ്കിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു ഇത് മോർഗേജ് അപ്പൊ ഇതിന്റെ കിട്ടുന്ന പൈസ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ടു ബി ഗിവൺ ടു ദി ബാങ്ക് എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. സോ ദ ബാങ്ക് ഗ്രാൻസ് ദ ലോൺസ് ഓൺ ദ ബേസിസ് ഓഫ് സർട്ടൺ സെക്യൂരിറ്റി. If a customer is not able to provide the bank with the sufficient security, the bank will not lend money and hence there will be no credit expansion. There should not be any credit expansion even though the money is not at all equivalent to the that mortgaged amount. The bank will not lend any money. So that is the case security for loans. That is the third point. So amount for deposit, cash reserve ratio, amount of deposit, cash reserve ratio, and security for loans. Then another point is liquidity preference. What is it? Liquidity preference. The amount of credit creation also limited if the people give preference to the liquidity. That means a bank gives loans to a customer who in turn makes the payment to his creditor. If the creditor keeps the amount in pocket, there will be no further expansion of credit. That is, a bank gives loan to a customer who in turn makes payment to the creditor. Creditor payment to the bank is giving some loan to the customer. If the creditor keeps the amount in his pocket, there will be no further credit expansion. If the creditor is not paying any amount, creditor payment there will be no further expansion of the credit maintained. So that is the liquidity preferences. And another case is business condition. That is, ഓരോ സമയത്തുമുള്ള ബിസിനസിന്റെ whether it is in a good position or a not. So that is the case business condition. The nature of economic condition in the country also restricts the ability of the banks to create the credit. If there is a depression in the country, traders will be incurring losses. Depression period, there will be incurring losses. They will not be willing to take the loans and invest, and hence there will be no credit creation. But during boom periods, the traders will approach the banks for loans and the volume of credit will increase also. So that is the case with regard to business condition. Either dull period, recession period, boom period, okay. So in such a case, what is the issue? Nature of economic condition, സാമ്പത്തിക സ്ഥിതി, രാജ്യത്തിന്റെ സാമ്പത്തിക സ്ഥിതിക്ക് അനുസരിച്ച് whether to increase the credit facility or decrease it, like that. So if there is depression in the country, traders will be incurring the losses. Traders will be incurring losses and vice versa. Means boom period anengilo, there may be enough loans to be provided and the volume of credit also will increase. So these are the points. So amount of deposit, cash reserve ratio, security for loans, liquidity preference, and the business condition prevailed in the country. Then next is another point is monetary policy. That is the RBI's or central bank's monetary policy. പണസംബന്ധമായ ഇടപാടുകളുടെ that transaction dealings. So the monetary policy of the central bank also influences the extension of creation of credit. Central bank is the controller of credit in the country. രാജ്യത്തെ ക്രെഡിറ്റ് കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്യുന്ന കൺട്രോൾ ചെയ്യുന്ന ബാങ്ക് ഏതാണ്? That is the Reserve Bank of India or the central bank. So the monetary policy. The monetary policy of the central bank also influences the extent of the credit creation. So the central bank acts as a controller of the credit in the country. So that is the monetary policy. Then leakages. The actual credit creation by the banking system may be considerably smaller than the potential credit creation due to certain leakages. So what is this leakages? There are at least two such leakages in the credit creation process, that is excess reserve and currency drains are there. So what is this leakage? The actual credit creation by the banking system may be considerably smaller than the potential credit creation due to the leakages. So there are at least two such leakages, that is excess reserve and currency drain. What is an excess reserve? The banks may not be willing to utilize their surplus fund for granting the loans. Loan കൊടുക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് the banks are not willing to use the surplus fund. മിച്ചം വന്നിരിക്കുന്ന ഫണ്ട് ലോൺ കൊടുക്കുന്നതിന് ഗ്രാന്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിനായിട്ട് the banks, almost all the banks are not at all using and may desire to maintain excess reserve. കൂടുതൽ റിസർവ് ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ടാണ് നോക്കുന്നത്, സർപ്ലസ് ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ടാണ് നോക്കുന്നത്. അല്ലാതെ അത് ലോൺ കൊടുക്കാനായിട്ട് ഗ്രാൻഡ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് they are not at all willing. Such a situation arises when there is a fear of significant rise in the future interest rate. ഭാവിയിൽ പലിശ നിരക്ക് കൂടുമോ എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ചില പേടി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ആകാംക്ഷ, ഓർ when the economy is leading towards a recession. ഈ രണ്ട് കേസ് ഉണ്ടാവുകയാണെങ്കിൽ there should be keeping an excess reserve. When the economy is leading towards a recession, the greater the excess reserve, the smaller the credit will be multiplier. So that is the case excess reserve. അതായത് the bank that may not be willing to utilize their surplus funds for granting loans. ലോൺ കൊടുക്കാനായിട്ട് അവർ ഒട്ടും താല്പര്യപ്പെടുന്നില്ല സർപ്ലസ് ഫണ്ട്സ് എടുത്ത്. So that it may decide to maintain the excess reserve again and again. So such a situation arises when there is a fear of significance rise in the future interest rate. ഭാവിയിൽ പലിശ നിരക്ക് കൂടുമോ എന്നുള്ള ഒരു പേടിയുള്ളത് അതൊരു കേസാക്കാം. അതർവൈസ് ഇഫ് ദ എക്കണോമി ലീഡ്സ് ടു എ റിസഷൻ പീരീഡ്, ഒരു റിസഷൻ ബൂം പീരീഡ് അല്ല, ഓക്കെ, റിസഷൻ പീരീഡ്. സോ ദീസ് ആർ ദ ടു കേസസ് വെയർ എക്സസ് റിസർവ് ഷുഡ് ബി മെയിൻറ്റെയിൻഡ്. സോ എക്സസ് റിസർവ്, now you are understood this one, that what is an excess reserve, കൂടുതൽ റിസർവ് കീപ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്നു for the contingency cases. Maybe the contingency occurs when the economy will reflect in a recession period or going to a recession period, or there should be a rise in the future interest rate, isn't it? So these are the situations that arises when an excess reserve should be maintained. And another point is the currency drains. So what is that? The loans extended by the banks that are assumed to return by way of new deposit, that is the currency drains. But the people may not return the entire amount or return only a part of it. To that extent, credit creation is limited also. Rather, the draining the currency, that is, the loans extended by the banks are assumed to return by way of new deposit. നമ്മൾ കണ്ടു മുമ്പേ lending of money, isn't it? Lending of money so that എന്താണ് പുതിയ ഡെപ്പോസിറ്റ്, ആ കൊടുത്ത ലെൻഡിങ് എക്സ്ക്യൂസ് മീ, ആ കൊടുത്ത ലോണിനെ ബേസ് ചെയ്താണ് നെക്സ്റ്റ് ഡെപ്പോസിറ്റ് വരുന്നത്. സോ ഇഫ് ദ പീപ്പിൾ മേ നോട്ട് റിട്ടേൺ ദ എൻറ്റയർ എമൗണ്ട്, കൂടുതലായിട്ടും റിട്ടേൺ ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല എങ്കിൽ, അവർ വേറെ യൂട്ടിലൈസേഷൻ നടത്തുകയാണ്, ഈ ഡെപ്പോസിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല എങ്കിൽ, ഓർ റിട്ടേൺ ഓൺലി എ പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് ഇറ്റ്, ദെൻ ദ ക്രെഡിറ്റ് ക്രിയേഷൻ ഓൾസോ ലിമിറ്റഡ് ടു ദാറ്റ് എക്സ്റ്റെന്റ്. അതേ രീതിയിലേ ഉള്ളൂ. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ദ ലീക്കേജസ്. So excess reserve and currency drain. Another point with regard to this is development of banking system. How the system should be developed. Development of a banking system and the banking habits of the people also influence the extent of credit creation. The banking habits depend upon development of a banking system. ഒരു ബാങ്ക് എത്രത്തോളം ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നു എന്നുള്ളത് the banking habits with regard to a particular customer or a general public, that is the base with regard to credit creation. So development of a banking system and the banking habits of the people that also influence the extent of credit creation also. Then behavior of other banks, മറ്റു ബാങ്കുകളുടെ പെരുമാറ്റം. The power of credit creation is further limited by the behavior of other banks. If some of the banks do not advance the loans to the extent required of the banking system, the chain of credit expansion will be broken. ചില ബാങ്ക്സ് കുറച്ച് കടുംപിടുത്തം പിടിക്കുകയാണ്, എന്തിന്, ലോൺ സാങ്ഷൻ ആക്കുന്നതിനും അതുപോലെ ക്രെഡിറ്റ് ക്രിയേഷന്റെ ആ ഒരു പ്രൊസീജിയേഴ്സിലും ഒക്കെ. സോ ഇൻ സച്ച് എ കേസസ് ദ ചെയിൻ ഓഫ് ക്രെഡിറ്റ് എക്സ്പാൻഷൻ, ഇത് ഓരോ ബാങ്കും അവരുടേതായ രീതിയിലുള്ള റൂൾസ് ആൻഡ് റെഗുലേഷൻ പ്രൊസീഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ, ചില ബാങ്ക്സ് ദേ ആർ വെരി സ്ട്രിക്റ്റ് വിത്ത് റിഗാർഡ് ടു ലിമിറ്റഡ് ബിഹേവിയർ. Okay, the power of credit creation is further limited by the behavior of other banks. Some of the banks do not advance the loans to the extent required on the banking system. ഒരു ബാങ്ക് സിസ്റ്റത്തിനകത്ത് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട് ഇത്ര ക്രെഡിറ്റ് കൊടുക്കാവുന്ന, അതുപോലും അവർ കൊടുക്കുന്നില്ല എങ്കിൽ the chain of credit expansion will be broken. That is the case. And use of the check facility. When the use of check is very popular among the public, they pay the check to settle the accounts and hence cash position of the bank is not yet affected. അതായത് ക്യാഷ് വൈഡ് ആയിട്ട് എന്തിനു പോകുന്നില്ല, ചെക്ക് ഫെസിലിറ്റി പ്രൊവൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ, സോ ക്യാഷ് വൈഡ് ആയിട്ട് യൂട്ടിലൈസേഷന് പോകുന്നില്ല. സോ ദീസ് ആർ ദ പോയിന്റ്സ് വിത്ത് റിഗാർഡ് ടു വിച്ച് വൺ ലിമിറ്റേഷൻ ഓഫ് ക്രെഡിറ്റ് ക്രിയേഷൻ. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ഫസ്റ്റ് തിങ് എമൗണ്ട് ഓഫ് ഡെപ്പോസിറ്റ്, another one is the cash reserve ratio, security for loans, liquidity preferences, business condition, then monetary policy followed by the RBI or the central bank, then leakages like a currency drain or a excess reserve, അതായത് സർപ്ലസ് റിസർവ്, കൂടുതലായിട്ട് റിസർവ് മെയിൻറ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്യുന്നു. then development of banking system, behavior of other banks, and also check facility to be utilized. So that is the limitation with regard to what? Limitation with regard to the credit creation. So we see the limitations of credit creation. Next, we are going to see what is the function or what is the Reserve Bank of India or what is the central bank with regard to our country and what are its functions like that. So we will see the Reserve Bank of India. So Reserve Bank of India is the central bank of the country as it was established in 1935. Till then, some of the functions of the central banking were performed by the Imperial Bank of India, which came into existence in 1921. It performed only the functions of regulation of credit, serving as a banker to other banks. So that is the case. It serves as a banker to other banks and acting as a banker to the government. Government in the case, it is acting as a banker to the government. Baki banks law, it is acting as a banker to other banks. So underline these things and also very important. So serving as banker to other banks, also banker to the government. Other central banking functions like issue of notes and the control of foreign exchange were discharged by the government. The performance of the functions of central banking by two different authorities with different policies was found to be defective from the point of view of the economic development of the country. Further, the Imperial Bank of India could not perform its central banking function effectively. So, there was a renewed demand for a full-fledged central bank that could perform all the central banking functions. അപ്പം ഓർക്കുക 1935 അതിനു മുമ്പ് വരെ ഇമ്പീരിയൽ ബാങ്ക് ഓഫ് ഇന്ത്യ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു ബാങ്ക് ആയിരുന്നു that is to be acting as the central bank. Okay, functions of central banking were performed by Imperial Bank of India, which came into existence in 1921. After that, 1935, Central Bank, that is the Reserve Bank of India, acting as the or as the central bank. So, serving as a banker to all other banks and also a banker to the acting as a banker to the government also. So, the Hilton Young Commission recommended the establishment of a central bank in India. The commission also recommended that the new central bank should be named as Reserve Bank of India. So, ഇത് ജസ്റ്റ് ഓർത്തിരിക്കുക ഹിൽട്ടൺ യങ് കമ്മീഷൻ ആണ് എന്ത് പറഞ്ഞത് എസ്റ്റാബ്ലിഷ്മെന്റ് ഓഫ് എ സെൻട്രൽ ബാങ്കിന്റെ ആവശ്യകതയെ പറ്റി പഠിച്ച് ഒരു ഇത് കൊടുത്തത് ദ ഹിൽട്ടൺ യങ് കമ്മീഷൻ. The commission also recommended that the new central bank should be named as the Reserve Bank of India. The government of India accepted the recommendations of the commission and introduced a bill in the central legislature in January 1927, but the bill was not passed. In 1933, the Central Banking Inquiry Committee recommended the establishment of the Reserve Bank of India at the earliest possible date for the purpose of developing the banking facility. അപ്പോൾ എന്തിനു വേണ്ടിയിട്ടായിരുന്നു? ഡെവലപ്പ് ദ ബാങ്കിങ് ഫെസിലിറ്റി, കൂടുതൽ നല്ല രീതിയിലുള്ള ഫെസിലിറ്റീസ് പ്രൊവൈഡ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് ആക്ടിങ് ആസ് എ ബാങ്കർ ടു ദി അതർ ബാങ്ക്സ് and bringing about a rapid economic development in the country. The bill was duly passed by the legislature and became an act called Reserve Bank of India Act on 6th March 1934. Therefore, the Reserve Bank of India was formally inaugurated on 1st April 1935. അപ്പോൾ 6th March 1934 ആ ബില്ല് തന്നെ പാസ്സാകുന്നത്. So, the Reserve Bank of India was formally inaugurated on 1st April 1935. Next is the capital of the RBI. We need to study the RBI concept. എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് അതിന്റെ റൂൾസ്, എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് അതിന്റെ പ്രൊസീജിയേഴ്സ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എങ്ങനെയാണ് അത് ഉണ്ടായത്, ദ ഹിസ്റ്ററി, അതാണ് നമ്മൾ കണ്ടത്. സോ ക്യാപിറ്റൽ ഓഫ് ദ RBI. RBI, the Reserve Bank, was originally constituted as shareholders bank with a capital of 5 crores divided into 5 lakhs fully paid up shares of rupees 100 each. 100 രൂപ വിലയുള്ള 5 ലക്ഷം ഫുള്ളി പെയ്ഡ് ഷെയർസ്, അങ്ങനെ 5 കോടിയാണ് അതിന്റെ ക്യാപിറ്റൽ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. The entire share capital was contributed by private shareholders with the exception of the nominal value of 2.2 lakhs subscribed by the central government. So that is the capital. Next is nationalization. After independence, the public opinion was strongly in favor of nationalization of the Reserve Bank. ദേശീയവൽക്കരിക്കുക. Okay, that is under the government jurisdiction. അതാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. Consequently, the Reserve Bank of India Transfer to Public Ownership Act was passed in 1948. The entire share capital of the bank was acquired by the central government against the compensation to the shareholders at 118.10 per share. From 1st January 1949, it began to function as a government-owned institution. 1949 ജാനുവരി 1 ഒരു ഗവൺമെന്റ് ഫുള്ളായിട്ടും that is to be ruled out by the government-owned institution ആയിരുന്നത് എപ്പോഴാണ്? ജനുവരി 1949 ഒന്നാം തീയതി. So, who are the management with regard to this? The management of the RBI is vested with the Central Board of Directors comprising of 20 members. The board consists of the following members like ഇത് നിങ്ങൾ ഓർത്തിരിക്കണം, the management with regard to one governor and 4 deputy governors appointed by the central government. Central government appoint ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ഗവർണറും 4 deputy governors. 4 directors nominated by the central government, one from each of the local board. ഓരോ local bodyയിൽ നിന്നും, that is 4 directors to be nominated by the central government. Then 10 directors nominated by the central government. One government official nominated by the central government. So these are the persons or the management constituting RBI. So one governor and 4 deputy governor appointed by the central government, 4 directors nominated by the central government, one from each of the local body. ഓരോ ലോക്കൽ ബോഡിയിൽ നിന്നും, ഓരോ ഏരിയയിലെ ലോക്കൽ ബോഡിയിൽ നിന്നും ഓരോ മെമ്പേഴ്സിനെ, അങ്ങനെ 4 ഡയറക്ടേഴ്സ്, പിന്നെ 10 directors nominated by the central government. എല്ലാത്തിനും സെൻട്രൽ ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ അധീനതയിലാണ്. So 10 directors should be nominated by the central government and one government official nominated by the central government. So the governor and deputy governor hold the office for 5 years and are eligible for reappointment. So governor and deputy governor, 4 deputy ഗവർണറും ഒരു ഗവർണറും അപ്പോയിന്റഡ് ബൈ ദ സെൻട്രൽ ഗവൺമെന്റ് ആണ്. 5 വർഷത്തേക്ക് ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ കാലാവധി പോലെ തന്നെയാണ് അതിൻ്റെതും. എലിജിബിൾ ഫോർ റീഅപ്പോയിന്റ്മെന്റ് ഓൾസോ. They are full-time officers of the bank. The 10 directors nominated by the central government hold office for 4 years. നേരത്തെ കണ്ട 10 ഡയറക്ടർ ഉണ്ട്, അവര് 4 വർഷത്തേക്കാണ് സർവീസ് ഉള്ളത്. The term of 4 directors appointed from the local boards is related to their membership in the local boards. The governor is the chief executive of the bank and the chairman of the board of directors also. He has the powers of ഏറ്റവും തലപ്പത്തിരിക്കുന്ന ആളാണ് the governor. Reserve Bank governor. So the governor is the chief executive of the bank and the chairman of the board of directors. He has the power of the general superintendent in order to direct the affairs. So the supreme authority is whom? The Reserve Bank governor. Okay. Direct the affairs and business of the bank subject to the regulations made by the central board. In the absence of the governor, deputy governor nominated by him would exercise his power. The central board must meet at least 6 times in a year and not less than once in a quarter. So just how it is functioning, only that. So we see today what is the Reserve Bank and what are who are the nominees with regard to that, or who is managing the things and all, and also what are the limitations with regard to the credit creation. Please have a look at today's classes and please clear off the doubts as and when occur. So, and please see the video after uploading. So thank you for